country. Joining me right now is Larry Pratt. He comes from a different side of this argument. He's executive director of the Gun Owners of America. Where are you on background checks?
We've opposed background checks from the very beginning. The Journal of the American Medical Association, which is no friend of ours, had published a study several years after background checks were imposed, and they found that they hadn't had any impact on reducing crime. So we have a system in place.
Wait a minute. How do you know that a person, let's talk logic here. If a criminal or a nut or an addict or a wife beater shows up at a gun store and wants to buy a gun and the guy says no, how does that not prevent violence? How's that not a good thing to happen?
Well, obviously criminals have
Would you sell a gun to one of these people?
Criminals have other places.
Would you sell a gun? Well, then why should a gun store sell it?
You listen to the answer, please. Don't be so impolite.
No, I'm being polite. You said no.
And I was following on with an explanation of why we are opposed to it. The Journal of the American Medical Association said these background checks had not lowered crime in the first several years that it had been imposed. Well, secondly, the ACLU has raised valid concerns even today that we're constructing a national gun registry, and that raises serious privacy questions.
The law right now is you can't sell guns knowingly to any of these categories of people, criminals, wife abusers. Right. Of course. You want to get rid of that law?
That's not the...
no, would you like to get rid of that law?
Of course not. No,
you want to leave that law in effect?
That would apply to anybody, but you don't need a background check to follow through on.
Oh, so you don't want a background check, even the one in the law today?
Period.
You want to get rid of the background check?
Absolutely.
So your response to Newtown is to get rid of what we have now?
Well, it's not our response. We've had that since the very beginning. We objected to it.
Okay,
we said this will become a gun registry.
The illogic of this,
it has become a gun registry.
The illogic of this is as follows. If I walked into a gun store to you and I look like a nut, a crazy person, would you sell me a gun?
No, and frequently gun dealers experience that. And
so if you could call up and find out in a matter of seconds where this person has a mental capacity that's a problem and has been court ordered not to be operating in any way with a gun, why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that information?
Chris, even after you've done that, the chap that's been turned down can easily go somewhere else.
Where?
They do.
Where do they go?
Get them on the street.
That's what we're trying to stop. The new law proposed is you can't have private sales, you can't have internet sales, you can't have gun shows.
Criminals are going to obey that? And private sales, by the way, means you're going to outlaw private sales. People will have to now go through dealers.
Okay.
Will have to have...
I don't know how to argue with it except this. If we have a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, because most people obey the law, all right? Why don't we just get rid of the speed limits? Because not everybody's going to obey them.
As a matter of fact, Chris, we think the country would be just fine without the background check.
Without any speed limits, too.
Well, I didn't say that. You're making...
No, but I'm arguing from your argument. Your argument says because some people can get around this, therefore don't try to stop it.
Because they do, and then the risk to the good guys of the gun registry and the abuse of the data that can be...
Okay, let's start with this.
And we have...
Why is there an abuse? Why is it bad for the government of the United States to maintain information on people that are criminals, wife beaters, addicts, or otherwise threats to society, so they are under some sort of restraining order, so they don't get access to firearms? What's wrong with that?
They're going to get access to firearms anyway. If they have a criminal intent, they're going to do it. They have done it. They do it all along. And so what you're saying is you're okay with a national gun registry.
No, I'm not. I never said that.
Well, that's what we're doing with this national background instant check, which, by the way, isn't always that instant. A lot of times...
Do we have a national registry right now?
We have a substantial part of it because we know that when a dealer enters a portal through his internet access to get a background check, he gets an information sheet that says this data is the property of the United States government,
let me ask you,
we can do with it what we want. That violates federal law.
Let's go down. Let's stay in the debate. This is all slippery slope argument.
They violate the law when they get it.
You walk into a store, and somebody says to you, I want to see an ID card to see if you're 21. Is that all right with you?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So somebody walks to the store in order to protect the store, so he doesn't sell to a criminal. He wants to know, a store owner, whether I'm selling to a criminal or not. Isn't it helpful to have him access to check and see if this person is a felon or not? What's wrong with that information?
And you know, if you stop there, he'll go somewhere else to get it, or he'll do what the GA did a number of years ago. He'll get a false ID, and he'll
I've had you on, but there's something really ideological about this because it doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm a good guy, I go to church on Sunday or synagogue, and I want to be a good person. I don't want to sell a gun to a nut, a criminal, a wife beater, somebody on a restraining order. How can I avoid doing that? If Joe Smith walks in the door, eyes wide open, I want to buy a Bushmaster. What am I supposed to do? Just sell it to him?
Chris, you're assuming that if you stop him at one point, he's forever stopped.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, yes, you are.
That's like, no, police officers...
Because he's going to go elsewhere and get the gun. That's what criminals have done. That's what they are doing.
Why do we have squad cars in big cities where you have tough crime neighborhoods, some places when they can't be anywhere? Because they help to deter. You would say don't have any squad cars, any police, because you can't stop all crime. What kind of argument is that?
As a matter of fact, what deters even more is when you have an armed person that's the potential victim. We have found that for instance, in Northern Virginia, where Gun Owners of America is, we have a murder rate of 0.3 per 100,000.
There's all kinds of reasons why murder rates differ.
But you come over here to the District of Columbia, it's 30 times higher.
And do you think they make the guns here in Washington?
And it's almost
Wait a minute, where's
impossible.
Okay, give me the name and address of a gun. Give me the name and address of a gun.
Why did the guns wait to come over to
Because people have criminal intent and they want a gun. And they get a gun.
I see. I thought the guns were just waiting to get over here.
Now, let me ask you this. Where are the gun manufacturers in Washington, D.C.? Just name the place where it's made here. These guns aren't made here. They're not made here. They come in here.
Doesn't that show you how foolish
Let me ask you, I'm going to go back to my moral question, which may work with you or not. If you're a moral gun salesman, do you want to sell to criminals?
I don't think anybody wants to sell.
Well, then how do you help a person not sell to a criminal?
We're not helping.
How do you help a gun merchant from not selling to criminals?
Because the criminals are not being thwarted.
So in other words, guns on demand.
A national gun registry.
Okay.
And that's unacceptable.
So your argument is guns on demand. You walk in this store, I'm a citizen, you got to sell me that gun. I don't care how crazy I look, you got to sell me that gun.
That will actually not impair the ability to handle crime. You don't have a good argument.
You know, let me tell you how your argument's doing. Let me tell you how good your argument's doing.
All you want is control. You want to know who the gun owners are.
I'm a pretty libertarian guy. Let me give you some numbers here.
So we don't trust people like you.
Do you trust, here, this is a Luke Quinnipiac bill, just came out, to see how well your argument's working in this country. Except with congressmen and senators you can intimidate. Do you support or oppose requiring background checks for all people who buy guns? 91% of people support background checks. 88% of Republicans, 96% of Democrats, 90% of independents, 88% of men, 94% of women, 91% of white Americans, 94% of black Americans, 90% of Hispanics. You're not winning your argument.
As a matter of fact,
they all want background checks.
That poll is about as valid as a $3 bill.
Why is that?
They had said that something like 85–90% of NRA members and Gun Owners of America members wanted the background checks. We polled our members.
Well, we just took you say this poll's no good.
I'm saying it's no good.
Okay,
I'm saying it's as good as a $3 bill because the same people that are telling us 90%, we found it's 4%. NRA found it's 5% among their members.
So people keep every poll we get keeps saying the same thing, but those people are lying.
If you set the poll up so that you get a certain outcome, then you're going to get a certain outcome.
I go back to my question. Would you like to sell a gun to a felon?
I wouldn't like that.
You wouldn't. You hedged there. Would you?
Not knowingly.
Well, how would you know otherwise?
You don't. And as a
so in
matter
other
of fact,
words,
Chris,
a guy card a kid for selling a beer. A can of beer, you got to show an ID card. You got to prove you're 21, but you don't have to prove you're sane or innocent to buy a gun.
And you certainly don't have to make that proof when you're buying the gun illegally, which is what criminals do. And that's where your system breaks down, and we're left with your national gun registry.
I'm left with the idea we live in an imperfect society with some people who are violent, and the people who are known to be violent shouldn't get guns.
And as long as you don't take my guns, yes, and as long as you don't take my guns away from me, I can handle the guy with a gun.
This is pure rhetoric. I'm sticking to one point tonight.
My linear logic is pure rhetoric.
No, you're changing the
jumping
topic.
around.
I'm talking about, do we want background checks? You don't want them.
The ACLU tells
you don't want them.
This is a dangerous proposition.
Larry, you don't want them. Can we speak for ourselves here?
Can you take an answer other than forcing one?
No, I want to know, Larry Pratt, where do you stand on background checks?
I told you where I stand.
Are you against background checks?
From the very beginning, Chris.
You're against the ones we have now.
Because we don't trust people like you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, a lot of people do. They're watching. Anyway, thank you, Larry Pratt. You've explained yourself perfectly. You're against all background checks. Coming up, the area